There is a specific type of person who never argues back. Not because they have nothing to say, not because they agree with you, not because they are afraid of conflict. They go silent because silence is the most sophisticated response their nervous system has ever developed. And the moment you understand why, you will never misread a quiet person again. Most people assume that silence in a conflict means surrender, that the person who stops engaging has run out of ammunition or lost confidence or simply does not care enough to fight. That assumption is wrong, and it costs people relationships, promotions, and entire friendships, because they mistake the most deliberate communication style in human psychology for the absence of communication entirely. The first reason some people go silent instead of arguing back is that their brain processes conflict differently, not slower, differently. Research on conflict processing styles shows that a significant subset of the population experiences what psychologists call hyperarousal during verbal confrontation. Their heart rate spikes. Their cortisol floods. Their working memory, the part of the brain that holds information in real time so you can use it in conversation, shuts down partially under the pressure of being verbally challenged. If this makes you uncomfortable, good, because this means the person who goes quiet in an argument is not choosing weakness. Their brain is choosing survival, and survival always overrides performance. The second reason is internal processing dominance. Some people think in language. They talk to think. The argument is the thought process. But a significant portion of the population thinks in images, feelings, and spatial relationships, not words. When you force them into a verbal argument, you're asking them to translate a nonverbal internal experience into real-time spoken language under pressure. That is not a fair fight, so they go quiet. Not because they have nothing to say, because what they have to say does not yet exist in a form you would accept. The third reason is the most important one, and it is the one most people are not ready to hear. Some people go silent because they have already had the argument, not out loud, not with you, in their own head, weeks ago, months ago, sometimes years ago. While you were still operating under the assumption that everything was fine, they were running simulations, anticipating your responses, formulating their points, reaching conclusions. By the time the argument arrives in real life, they are not at the beginning of it, they are at the end. And arguing from the end of a conversation with someone who is still at the beginning is not frustrating, it is pointless. This is not a communication failure. This is what happens when one person in a relationship is doing the emotional processing for both of them. And I am going to say something that therapists are reluctant to put this bluntly. The person who goes silent is often the most emotionally intelligent person in the room. Not because silence is always right, but because they have already done the work you are still refusing to start. The fourth reason is learned protection. For many people who default to silence and conflict, the silence was not chosen, it was trained. They grew up in environments where expressing disagreement led to escalation, punishment, or emotional withdrawal from the people they depended on. Their nervous system learned a survival equation early. Speaking up equals danger, and survival equations do not disappear when the danger does. They persist into adulthood, into relationships, into workplaces, long after the original threat is gone. What you are reading as avoidance is the scar tissue of someone who once tried to speak and paid for it. The fifth reason is the one that will change how you argue forever. Some people go silent because they can already see how the argument ends. They know your counter-arguments. They know their own. They know the emotional arc, the escalation, the deflection, the circling back, the unresolved ending. And they have made a quiet, private calculation that the cost of going through the performance is higher than the benefit of any outcome it could produce. This is not giving up. This is the most rational response to an irrational situation. And the people who mistake it for weakness are usually the ones who have never won an argument they actually needed to win. If you're watching this and recognizing yourself in the silence, the quiet one, the one who retreats, the one who is called cold or distant or checked out, I want you to hear this clearly. Your silence is not a flaw. It is a filing system. Everything you did not say is stored, organized, and retrievable. You have not lost the argument. You have simply declined to perform it for an audience that was never going to listen anyway. And if you are watching this and recognizing someone else, someone who went quiet when you needed them to fight back, stop interpreting their silence as indifference. They are not empty, they are full. So full that opening the door would cost more than you are currently prepared to receive. Why some people feel more alone in a room full of people than they ever do by themselves, and what that split actually reveals about how your brain is wired. That is the next frequency. If this one reached you, stay tuned in.